working in your life. Many of you are being offered these gifts on a daily basis from God, gifts of opportunities, right? And not acting. And the next day goes past, and many of you will never be offered the same opportunity again. Do you know that? For many hundreds of years maybe, or even thousands of years, you might not get the same opportunity again. Like the opportunity, look at the big opportunity. There's an opportunity here for you to be at one with God while you're living on earth. But that requires actions. It requires you deciding and making some choices and decisions and going ahead with some feelings and dealing with different things, right? So isn't that a fantastic opportunity? Like at this moment, there's only ever been one person on earth who's been in that place. Wouldn't you like to be the second one? Like, isn't that a wonderful opportunity? But many of us hear a bit of that truth, and there has been literally over the last two millennia, literally millions and millions and millions of people who have heard this truth. And not one of them have acted on it to the point of completion on this planet. Not one of them. All right? So there's opportunities constantly coming at us. Bang, 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 bang. God's like giving out these gifts left, right and centre, right? And you know what we do with them? A lot of times we don't even notice them as a gift. Oh, that person just tried to control me. I don't go for that. Might be one of our responses. Not realising that we were just offered a gift and we could have said yes. You know that movie, Yes Man? It's so funny, isn't it? Like, he's saying yes to, mind you, he's saying yes to a lot of things I would have had to say no to because not very loving. But it's just a funny concept, and it's very true. A lot of the times we're denying opportunity after opportunity, and these are all gifts being offered to us by the universe. And what we finish up doing is we deny them because we're afraid of the potential consequences, perhaps, or to be more frank, we're afraid of dealing with an emotion. Usually, that's the whole reason why we deny all these things. So every time that happens, like these spirits noticing that as well. Oh yeah, opportunity, neglected that, opportunity. Oh, you see, 3 opportunities. Every one of those opportunities meant she had to deal with the fear of telling the truth to her family. So if I want to manipulate her, all I've got to do is expose the truth to her family, and now she's in the palm of my hand. I can now control her. So imagine that. If I saw that pattern happening as a spirit. Interesting, hey? Imagine if you were a manipulative spirit, or you were somebody who's in a dark condition from a spirit perspective. Wouldn't you notice those events? And wouldn't you go, how can I use that? This is what they do. They go, how can I use that? Yeah, I can use that. And so, what happens is time after time after time we get the attraction of having the truth, speaking the truth to our family. And what do? We deny the truth, or we avoid it, or we might even lie. And what just happened when we lied? Down went our soul condition again, right? Can you see how if we're in harmony with love and truth, we will always just keep progressing towards God. But can you see how tempting it is to not be harmonious with love and truth? Little lie here, little thing there, down goes our soul condition. And this is why this cycle thing occurs on earth a lot, where people go all right for a while, get some pretty heavy emotions triggered. As soon as those heavy emotions are triggered, downhill. Does that make sense? And then they go, then they feel all the regret and remorse emotions about that. Then they desire to do that again because they know it's the truth, and so they progress again. And then what happens again? So the same issue generally comes up again, confronted, still not courageous enough to deal with that emotion, not realizing the truth even, that all of God's laws are built around you speaking truth and living in love. All of God's laws. So every time you don't live in those 2 places, one of God's laws is automatically broken. And every time we break one of God's laws, there's an automatic degradation in our soul condition. There's an automatic feedback system that we feel inside of us. And we don't realize that, and we don't trust that yet. Because if we did, we'd never break another one of God's laws knowingly, right? Like many of you know that you have emotional addictions. Many of you are like this with your emotional addictions. What you're doing is you're like a smoker who knows that the smoking is bad for him. Just filled up those lungs with that crappy air, that eats away those little, creates little polyps in my lungs. And yeah, this is really bad for me. I can feel it, it's affecting my jogging. When I go jogging, I don't get but it makes me feel so calm. Isn't that good? Like my stressful life is now not feeling quite as stressful, right? And in that moment, what am I doing? I'm just feeding the addiction. Now, I know that it's bad for me. I know people even, I know there's statistics that have been presented to me over and over again that it takes 10 years off of my life on the average, like in terms of the longevity of my life, and adds to the amount of disease. 50,000 people in Australia die every year from smoking-related diseases. In Australia, and I know this. Yeah, but I just can't seem to give it up, right? Why? Because we're not letting the truth of the thing really confront us, are we? Obviously. Now, this is what we're like with our emotional addictions. We're identical to that in our emotional addictions. See, many of us don't want to just go cold turkey on our emotional addictions. What we want to do is have the emotional addictions met. And we say, oh yeah, but I know that if I deal with the underlying emotion that creates the addiction, then I'll be able to release this addiction and it won't be with me anymore. So that's like the smoker going, yes, I'll keep smoking until such a time as I feel like giving up. Now, the chances of him feeling like giving up as he's smoking are high, not very high, are they really? Right? Because the smoke is feeding the addiction. You see, while we're feeding the emotional addiction, we've got all these spirits around us feeding our emotional addiction. We've got all these people around us on the earth feeding our emotional addiction and keeping our emotional addiction in play. And unless I'm willing to go cold turkey on some of these addictions, I am never going to shake them. Ever. So how do you deal with the emotional addiction of comfort? It's certainly not by having a nice, comfortable house that you're living in and everything's fine, is it? You can't deal with it there, can you? How can you deal with it? Go for a month with a tent, no cooking utensils, just food, and see how you go. Right? No toilet. You got to dig a hole. Challenge yourself with it, in other words. Challenge the addiction.